It was a dark and stormy night when Sarah first heard the whispers. At first, she thought it was just the wind howling through the cracks in the old house, but as the days went by, the whispers grew louder and more distinct. They seemed to be coming from the walls themselves, murmuring in a language Sarah couldn't understand. She tried to ignore the whispers and go about her daily life, but they were always there in the back of her mind, nagging at her and making her feel uneasy. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were watching her, judging her every move. As the weeks passed, the whispers became more insistent and Sarah began to have strange, vivid dreams. In her dreams, the walls would open up and strange, grotesque creatures would emerge, dragging her into the darkness. She would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart racing. Sarah knew she had to do something about the whispers. She consulted with a psychiatrist, who prescribed her some medication to help with her anxiety. But the whispers only grew louder and more malevolent. Sarah began to hear them even when she was awake, taunting her and tempting her to give in to her fears. One night, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She tore down the walls of the old house, desperate to silence the whispers once and for all. But as the plaster and drywall crumbled to the ground, Sarah realized that the whispers had been inside her all along, and they would stay with her forever. As the last of the walls came down, Sarah stood in the wreckage of what used to be her home, panting and sweating with exertion. She felt a sense of relief wash over her as the whispers finally fell silent, but it was short-lived. In the silence, Sarah could hear her own thoughts more clearly, and they were just as disturbing as the whispers had been. She realized that the whispers had been a manifestation of her own inner demons, and now, with the walls gone, there was nothing to keep them at bay. Sarah knew that the only way to be rid of the whispers was to face her fears head-on and confront the things that had been haunting her. She gathered up what was left of her belongings and set out on a journey of self-discovery, determined to find a way to silence the voices in her head once and for all. But the whispers followed her wherever she went, whispering in the back of her mind, always just out of reach. And Sarah knew that she would never truly be free of them. The whispers had become a part of her, just like the scars on her arms and the memories of the things she had done to survive. They were a reminder of the darkness that lived within her, waiting to consume her at any moment. Sarah tried to ignore the whispers as best she could, but they only grew louder and more insistent over time. They seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once, filling her head with images of blood and death. She began to see things that weren't there, shadowy figures lurking in the corners of her vision, leering at her with twisted, grotesque faces. Sarah knew she was losing her mind. She could feel it slipping away, bit by bit, as the whispers consumed her. She begged for mercy, pleaded with the voices to leave her alone, but they only laughed and taunted her, telling her that she would never be free of them. In the end, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She took a razor blade to her wrists, hoping to silence the whispers once and for all. But as she lay on the floor, bleeding out, the whispers only grew louder and more triumphant. They told her that she would never escape them, that they would haunt her for all eternity. And Sarah knew that they were right. She was trapped in her own mind, forever at the mercy of the malevolent whispers that had consumed her soul. But as Sarah lay there, on the brink of death, something inside her snapped. She couldn't let the whispers win. She summoned all of her remaining strength and fought back against the darkness that had taken hold of her mind. To her surprise, the whispers began to recede, their hold on her gradually weakening. Sarah clung to this small glimmer of hope, focusing all of her energy on driving the whispers out of her head. It was a long and difficult battle, but Sarah was determined to win. In the end, she emerged victorious. The whispers were gone, silenced forever. But the victory came at a great cost. Sarah was left broken and scarred, her mind a shadow of what it had once been. She lived the rest of her days in a mental institution, struggling to piece together the fragments of her shattered psyche. But even in the darkest moments, Sarah held on to the hope that she had triumphed over the whispers, that she had reclaimed her mind and her soul. And though she knew that the whispers would always be lurking in the shadows of her mind, she was determined to never let them take control again. But Sarah's struggles were far from over. Even as she worked to rebuild her life, the whispers continued to haunt her. They whispered in the corners of her mind, always just out of reach, taunting her with memories of the things she had done while under their control. Sarah knew that they were waiting for an opportunity to strike again, to take over her mind and twist it to their own twisted ends. She lived in constant fear, never daring to let her guard down for even a moment. And as the years went by, the whispers grew stronger and more relentless. They whispered of bloodshed and chaos, of death and destruction. They told her that the only way to be free of them was to give in to their dark desires, to embrace the darkness within her and let it consume her completely. Sarah knew that she couldn't let that happen. She fought against the whispers with everything she had, struggling to keep them at bay. But as the years passed and the whispers grew louder and more insistent, she began to wonder if she would ever truly be free of them. In the end, Sarah's mind snapped. She could no longer bear the weight of the whispers, the constant struggle to keep them at bay. She gave into the darkness, letting it consume her completely. And as the whispers cackled with triumph, Sarah disappeared into the shadows, her mind and soul forever lost to the darkness that had claimed her.